and he who has the gold and the commodities makes the rules, and all of the metal is heading eastward. So whether we beat them to the punch and kind of steal their thunder, which wouldn't surprise me, or they do it by this time next year, wouldn't surprise me one iota if we saw gold revalued to a level that would shock people.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for October 7th through October 14th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature Australian silver kangaroos at just $2.99 over spot. Next, backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples are just $60 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always delighted to have this widely followed returning guest. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, and he joins us for a weekly market update. This is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. You'll be seeing this on Wednesday night, but we're here in the eye of Hurricane Milton, and we're recording this ahead of time because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Andy, thanks for joining us again on Liberty and Finance.
Yeah, good to be here, Dunnigan. It's crazy what's happening with Milton. I know you're in Florida. I'm in Florida. I think you might be closer to the path than I am in Delray Beach, but who knows, you know?
That's true. You're going to get the trailing edge there as it comes through. And the westerly winds are going to hit you.
Yeah. And you know, that's, you know, not great, but certainly, concerning. What concerns me more after watching just how horrible the fallout was in North Carolina. What happens to the infrastructure, to the supply chains? I've never understood this to the degree that I did yesterday. Fortunately, in the 3 years that I've been here, Dunnigan, the hurricanes have all gone over to the West Coast, much like this one. But from the West Coast, they would go, you know, northeast in direction and miss us. Going to the Publix groceries, first of all, we drove by Costco, and I mean, you would think Armageddon was coming. There was cars lined a half a mile down the street. So obviously we didn't go there. And then just going to the local grocery store. And in Florida, you know, Publix is on every corner, and literally, it seems like. And there were no eggs. There was no milk. The meat was almost totally gone. The water was gone. It's really startling when you realize, you know, the old saying, just-in-time economy, where the supply chain is ordered just in time, and a disruption in that supply chain. What does it mean? You can see it in real time in the face of a hurricane that's not even supposed to really affect where I am materially. Granted, who knows? Mother Nature could decide to take a right turn. But anyways, the point of it is that I think you can discern a lot from this, whether we're talking about precious metals or preparing. You know, we often talk about the reluctance to prepare, hence the old name of your show, Reluctant Preppers. And I think that when you are reluctant and when you are doing things in a reactive fashion rather than a proactive fashion, fortunately, most of my preparation has always been done proactively. But just to run to the grocery store saying, geez, you know, we may have to hunker down for a while. Fortunately, we have a generator in hurricane windows. You know, maybe this could be a 3, 4, 5 day deal. So we go to the grocery store, and I was shocked and blown away by what I saw. And I think people should think about that as it pertains to precious metals, which, again, you know, when we've been told on many levels by guys like Jamie Dimon that a hurricane was coming. Well, here's one that is coming literally, and I think he meant more figuratively. And when you see some form of a monetary hurricane come rushing through the economy, being reactive is certainly not a good path to follow. And I can tell you that in real time, just watching the grocery stores empty out in a very, very, very short period of time.
And you're right that we are all trying to make preparations now that are getting advance notice. We've been trying to provide advance notice since 2013 to as many people as we can possibly get the word out to about the coming storm. In fact, you've used that metaphor multiple times. You've said, we may be in the eye of the storm now. We had the lockdowns and everything for 3 years, disrupting global supply chains, disrupting the economy, basically making things that should normally be easy to accomplish in our lives nigh difficult or impossible. And yet there was a little lull here where things seem to kind of be returning to a form of normalcy. And even for precious metals, availability more flush than usual, and the premiums lower than usual, et cetera. And you kept telling people, guys, we are in the eye of the storm, because wait till the trailing wall comes. That's one of the things that you've been trying to speak about at the Rule Conference on an annual basis, is giving people a big picture macro update of the movement, and it is accelerating. And you like to use the term little by little, but frankly, there's been a lot going on the international, on the global scene, also domestically, with the hockey stick ramp up in the rate of debt expansion to $1 trillion every 100 days, et cetera. Can you talk to us about this, perhaps the closing of the eye of the storm? So it's very apt metaphor. My wife and I are directly on the path of the eye, and we're going to hit the eye wall. It's going to come right over us, et cetera. And because of several factors, we think we're in an okay location and have made okay preparations. But you never know. You never know in life. You can never tell yourself you've got all the bases covered, because Mother Nature's bigger than any of our scale preparations. But talk to us about what you have described about how it appears that financially we may be in that eye of a storm that's going to soon create a lot of volatility in all of our lives. And if we care about our livelihood, about our savings, about our retirements, about our well-being of our families' financial futures, now is the time to be taking action, not once everybody wakes up.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I mean, there are signs all over the place. The Fed drops short-term interest rates down, but at the same time, we see the back end of the curve start to go up. And that to me is the market, or big money selling long-dated claims for the future delivery of dollars, which increases interest rates for the bonds. And this is not a good omen. This is at the same time, we see them buying gold and silver at a rate the world has never seen before. And I think that for a long time, we had, it seemed, this geopolitical cooperation, in particular in the price of oil and the price of gold, with the Saudis and with other countries. And it seems as though the markets are no longer discounting this geopolitical cooperation, at least in my mind, in terms of the price of oil and in terms of gold. And they are starting to separate themselves. We can look at a country like, for example, in this case, a country like Poland, who has now decided to continue to purchase gold. They're already at 420 metric tons. They have more gold now than the EU. And when you talk about what Adam Glipinski, the head of the central bank, said, is that he wants to get it up to as high as 20% of their foreign exchange reserves. And I want to remind people what Adam Glipinski said when asked recently, why is it that you buy gold? And he says, because gold will retain its value even when someone cuts off the power to the global financial system, destroying traditional assets based on electronic accounting records. Now, of course, we don't assume that this will happen, but as the saying goes, forewarned is forearmed. When you hear things like this, it becomes very, very important. We're seeing the breakout of gold in Swiss francs, which is a very important confirmation. Because especially in terms of other currencies, where we've seen gold break out in most currencies, but the Swiss franc has been one of the world's top performing currencies this year and in years past. And a breakout in Swiss francs above moving averages is even more, monumentous. And it is, and it's happening. We're seeing countries like Iran who have increased their gold ownership and purchasing by 6 times this year compared to the same time last year. And there was an interesting article that came out about a hacking group that exposed documents from a company called Tandar Sara. I know I butchered the hell out of that name, but anyways, this company is involved in drone technology, and it's linked to Iran, to their military. And the hacked documents that came out, kind of like a WikiLeaks thing, said that Iran paid $1.75 billion in a deal for drones, and the payment was made with several tons of gold ingots. We're seeing a shift away. We're seeing a movement away from the West, a shift away from treasuries, a shift away from dollars, and a changing of the guard. And, countries are tired of sanctions and the bullying, and they're trying to get out of the way of the West. And they're doing that by purchasing over $1 trillion of gold since 2022 while selling $1 trillion in treasuries. This is a trend that is unmistakable. When we talk about the countries in Project Enbridge, the ones that are moving to what I believe is really the big moment, and that is if indeed we see a common settlement currency come out of this meeting in October or in a few weeks here in Russia. It's noteworthy to note that all of the countries in Enbridge, China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, they all run a current budget surplus. And all of them have been increasing their gold reserves. And instead of buying treasuries, this is what's called gold recycling. And they're storing their trade surpluses in gold instead of U.S. treasuries. This is huge. All of these things are going to factor in to this big moment. And it's also noteworthy to note that China, Hong Kong, and the UAE all have sophisticated precious metals markets. The one in Shanghai, the volume has now surpassed the COMEX dramatically with a 400% increase in volume over the past 6 months or less. It's now the second most actively traded market in the world. You can see the pieces are being put into place. It's not just gold. We find out that Russia's federal budget draft includes plans to acquire not just gold, platinum, and palladium, but for the first time ever announced by a central bank, silver. And it's the first time that the central bank has ever made a significant announcement in this regards. And, could it push it above 50? Yeah, why not? When you have stupidity to the degree that we have, suppression on the COMEX market, on the LBMA, yeah, it's rocket fuel. And maybe that's why we see the Citibank analyst, Max Layton, come out and say that, first of all, silver's up about 35% so far this year, but they're predicting over the next 3 months a rise up to $38. And maybe even higher. So all of these things are beginning to factor into, into the global picture. And that discounts all the stupidity that we are seeing at home, where $167 million was just given to Lebanon, approved, in aid, $385 million already this year. And yet, we need to get congressional approval to approve additional aid to North Carolina at the same time. And they've gotten a fraction of that amount. It's unbelievable where this moron, the head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, came out just on Wednesday, I think, and he said that they don't have enough funds in FEMA, that they've already spent more than $1.4 billion since the fall of 2022 to address the migrant crisis. And they expect another hurricane hitting a la tomorrow, but they don't have enough money to do it. And, it's disgusting that we've given $1.4 million to illegal immigrants here, money taken from FEMA and at the same time in an environment, and this is kind of just, I digress for a second, where it just seems that with this modern monetary theory BS that's all over the place, where we can spend money to a degree that no one's ever seen before, where we can create a 100,000 in debt every second, and $1 trillion every 100 days, which took 200 years to do the first time, that we don't even have enough decency and even a hollow gesture to stuff the coffers of organizations like FEMA so they can come in and help us when we need it most. It's just unbelievable that we give money all around the world and don't take care of our own. It's horrific. So
let me just piggyback on what you just said, and that is to make sure that everyone, and most of the people who follow this channel are already totally on board with this, but just in case they need this talking point when they're talking to family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, etc., is the government doesn't have any money. Okay? The government doesn't create anything. They don't produce anything. They have no savings, no trust fund, no endowment, no nothing. The government is bankrupt, insolvent. Anything that they say they're going to provide, give, unleash, open up, we think, oh, good, the cavalry is coming. It's like, no, they're saying we're going to take more from you, more from your children, more from your grandchildren, drive you deeper into debt to put out this fire over here or that fire over there. But you're pointing out that their priorities are totally screwed up, even in the fires that they're putting out. They're supporting 750 military bases around the world. They're giving tons in foreign aid. They're supporting illegal immigrants in ways that are unthinkable, including separately making sure that they have the right to vote in our country, et cetera. But financially, the priorities are all out of whack. And in terms of being captured by you name it, Eisenhower told us the military industrial complex. RFK Jr. would remind us the medical industrial complex. There's the big agri industrial complex, and on. So all of this, corporate subsidies that are going out the door. And meanwhile, the priorities for the ordinary people, we're even having officials that are being paid to go down and stop Good Samaritan neighbors from helping their neighbors down in the Southeast. So that's got to be in the too stupid to be stupid category.
It is. And then you have the reporting agencies. Remember we talked about Claudia Sahm, the Sahm rule, which is I think 9 recessions in a row perfect record, where if employment rate drops, I think 50 basis points below its 3-month moving average, you're in a recession. And the unemployment rate would have had to have fallen to 4.5% for that to be triggered, as it should be. In September, we get this, again, with the BLS. I mean, we should just take the L right out of this and call it what it is. It's BS. They tell us after, revising 1 million jobs in last year. Now they tell us that in September that they added a whopping 254,000 jobs, the biggest monthly increase since March, higher than average monthly gain, blah, 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 blah. But what they didn't tell us is that they actually increased the number of government workers by 785,000 government workers, the highest monthly surge in government workers on record. Right before an election, complete and total BS out of the BLS. In reality, the U.S. job market shed 458,000 jobs in September. They're called non-seasonally adjusted jobs. Okay, so those would be the kids who went back to college that were, doing landscape work and part-time work and whatever. We lost 460,000 jobs. We added 785,000 government jobs. And to your point, government doesn't produce anything. They just suck assets out of the system, suck profitability. They don't have the profit motive that we find in business, where you do things for a profit motive. There is no profit motive with government. Therefore, it's completely and totally inefficient. And that's exactly what we are seeing here, just this crap and people will believe it, because most of the people who think that the economy is strong didn't even see that they quietly revised jobs down at the end of the year for 2023. It's disgusting. We spent $66 billion on illegal immigrants in 2023 versus $4 billion for homeless veterans. When you talk about, priorities being misplaced, and it's crazy. So, I think that there are a lot of things going on right now that people should be alarmed about. How about this one from the too stupid to be stupid category? Former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte visited the Ukraine last week, Thursday, just 2 days after replacing the gal who was running the head of NATO. And now Rutte is now the head of NATO. And he says, Ukraine is closer to NATO than ever before, and we will continue on its path until you become a member of our alliance, he said. I mean, when you talk about stupid, are they trying to drag us into World War III? Are they trying to provoke Putin? A promise that Ukraine would never be in NATO. And now you have NATO not only providing assistance, providing weapons, but now they're going as far as saying you're going to be dragged into NATO. This is crazy. So yeah, I think it's time that people start to think unconventionally. These are very unconventional times.
You just reminded me that my son, Elijah K. Johnson, who founded his channel, Unconventional Finance was the name of his original channel. And he didn't say non-traditional. He said unconventional because we have lost the convention that was founded by our founding fathers to get away from the corruption and the oppression and the tyranny of King George III, but the Bank of England and the taxation, the unjust taxation without representation, et cetera, that brought with it. And that was the founding of our country. And in our Constitution and in the Coinage Act of 1792, it says that our money is supposed to be real money, sound money, gold and silver. And can you talk to us about how people who want to take a proactive stance to get back to their proper roots and to take charge, just as our forefathers did, of their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, to make sure that we're doing the right thing for ourselves, for our families, for our fellow countrymen, instead of sleepwalking and sheepwalking down this path that's being laid for us into oppression and tyranny.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are many reasons why we want to do this, and I'll go over the few specials that we have. But, one reason is just the fact that over the last 4 years, the dollar's lost 25% of its value. Clearly, inflation wasn't transitory. We've added over $300 billion to our national debt in the last month, which is now approaching $36 trillion. And, both candidates are working for the Fed. They're both singing the Fed's book. They're both talking more lower rates and lower dollar. And so this is not going to get better anytime soon. This has never been more important on gold and silver. And I'll tell you, all the backdate sovereign coins are gone. They're all gone. Now it's just the current stuff, right? And the 10th ounce Eagles 2024, gone, sold out. Won't be any until 2025. We still have some in stock, but when they're gone, that's it. This is how it begins. As we get closer to the election, I would suspect that we will end up having a challenging time getting product. That's assuming that there isn't an event, something that wakes people up on a grander scale. So, I hate to sound alarmist and say you better hurry up or else, but I think you ought to hurry up or else, because I think getting product could ultimately be the biggest challenge. When we start to see it become the backdates go and then certain issues of the current mint issues disappear, that's how it always happens. There is an awakening by people. They are beginning to feel, even if they're not able to really articulate it, that something's happening, something's coming. And I
wanted to break in right there just because I wanted to underscore even more emphatically one thing that you just mentioned. And that is, as we mentioned, the eye of the hurricane is coming, that there's that moment as the eye passes over you when people are tempted to just go outside, look around, the sky is clear, the winds are calm, everything looks beautiful. Oh, it's passed. The storm is passed. You've talked to us about having been through this before. You've been in this business for 35 years, founding it with your dad. You've seen what happens is that you get where there's flush with product and the premiums start coming down. Everybody thinks it's life's good again, easy peasy. I'll just wait. And then you start to see certain, I would call them cave canary products that run out. Often it's the 10th ounce American Gold Eagle. Sometimes it's the junk silver. Things start to run out. But at that moment, premiums are still low, which is remarkable. So it can't be that we're about to run out of stuff because premiums are still low.
That's why I would be accused of talking my book, because premiums are low, availability is good. So obviously it's just trying. But I mean, if you're not forward looking, maybe that's the one thing that I've been fortunately blessed with being able to do in running a business for over almost 3.5 decades, is be forward looking. And I know that if you don't roll with the changes, you will be rolled by the changes. And I've seen that happen in this industry with companies that have refused to roll with the changes in many respects. But yeah, I think this is one of these deals where recency bias, normalcy bias has to be overcome, or else. I do mean that. We do have silver kangaroos at $2.99 over spot. Purest silver coin in the world, boxes at $2.50, tubes at $25. One of my favorite silver coins, period. Fantastic. All of the other sovereign mint coins come in boxes of 500. These mini mint boxes are very nice. My youngest daughter could carry one, and picking up a box of silver eagles or maples, for most people is not that big of a deal, but it gets heavy at 42 pounds. So anyways, this is a convenient way to own the purest silver coin in the world. $2.99 over spot. And backdate gold maple leafs at $60 over spot, as cheap as I've ever sold them for. Another good way to own gold. I wouldn't call these specials in the respect that they're nothing special. They're very ordinary. But these are the things that you want to be the foundation of your portfolio. You don't need special. You want ordinary, liquid, sought after, recognized. That's exactly what this is. And as I've said for the past 6 months, everything is on special. It truly is. Specials could be numismatic coins that are cheaper than they've been in a long time, or it could be Morgan silver dollars or whatever. We have all of that stuff, but each week we try to bring something new. Maybe, we have a lot of. We bought an awful lot of these. We bought an awful. I love them. My favorite. The Morgans are my favorite. Done again by far. I love the Morgans. And I bought a lot of the kangaroos from an estate, 40-some thousand of them. So wanted to offer them to the public at a good price. And this is indeed a very good price.
I wanted to underscore that there are still some things that are available, like in the junk silver category. Mercury dimes, I notice, are still available, even though it's been about 50-50 that we run out of Roosevelt and random year dimes, but we still have some Mercuries.
Well, I'd like to make a comment on that. One of my pushbacks about pre-65 silver, people look at it and say, what the hell do I want one of those for? It's just a dime. No. Pre-65, it's got... You show people a Mercury dime, I would venture to say 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 people have never seen one before. Have no idea. They know it's a dime intuitively. They know it's an American coin, but have never seen one. It's much easier, I think, for people to understand that a Morgan silver dollar or a Mercury dime has value, and that would indeed actually be silver. So there is something to be said for that. I do love both an awful lot. In terms of if I had my choice, if I had to pick 2 silver items, period, it would be Morgan silver dollars and silver eagles. They're my favorite 2 coins that you can get. So, I think that maybe a close third would be the Mercury dimes.
Yeah, we've had some concern expressed by people concerned that Mercury dimes, because they're older, typically might have more wear than the more later year Roosevelts, and therefore you might end up with slightly less silver. But I think that you're right, that there's the counterbalancing. Well, there's 2 things that are counterbalancing. One is that you get that immediate visual recognition that, oh, this is something special. Nobody looked at this would miss that it's something special. Number 2 is that the factor that the industry uses for the silver content of a junk silver of 715 ounces per $1,000 face, or 0.715 ounces per $1 face of silver, is already a derated conservative factor. In other words, they were minted with more silver than that in them. So the wear has already been factored in.
Yeah, 723 ounces, I believe. And that's a very good point. How many people, no one's melting down your bags of silver. So you'll always get that 715. And that's why the industry agreed on 715, because of the wear that you can find on some coins. But you won't find that on the Roosevelts, true. But I think there is something to be said for the older Mercury dimes, which are awe-inspiring. And that's the thing. The wow factor is important, I think. When people say, wow, that's cool, that's neat. It's relevant. And in a bag of dimes and quarters that everyone's seen, the Washington quarters and the Roosevelt dimes, it may not give you the wow factor, and maybe a little bit of convincing to do. Over time, that information disseminates. But nonetheless, I do love the Mercuries, and there are some older quarters and half dollars that you can get, the Franklin half dollars or the seeded Liberty quarters, or any of these extra older items that certainly trigger the wow factor we can help you with. They may not be the most economical, but the thing of it is that all of these coins have really come down a bit in premium, the pre-65 coins, even the older ones. So you can get a really good deal on the Mercuries and even the Morgans and the Peace dollars. So I would definitely not push people away from going in that direction. And even with the Morgan dollars, they do come at a premium, but they've held their premium as well as anything I've ever sold in 35 years. So buying some circulated Morgans like you have is really a great choice and might be my all-time favorite silver coin.
The other thing I was going to mention about, you mentioned all of the backdated sovereign coins are gone. Even our special 1 ounce Canadian gold maple leaf 4/9 fine gold 1 ounce coins, those are 6 days out till we get them in. Can you talk to people, because this is a point that deserves clarification. There's a difference between things that are on the shelf, ready to go, we can ship them tomorrow if you wire today kind of thing, versus things that are uncommitted. We've paid for them. They're on their way to us, but they aren't yet in our operations, because that's the next sign that you've talked about. We've been through this before, is first the things that are on your shelf get sold out. Then the things that are, you can still sell on committed inbound shipments, people can lock those in and they own those. They can not only pay for those, but they can have them committed. We can't sell them to anybody else. Once we've sold them to them, they're committed legally to them. But that's the next sign that we see, is that these things start to go into these, and then we end up in the full blown, like we had during the lockdown era, where it's back ordered, just notify me kind of situation. How there's the kind of those 3 stages of in stock, going to be in soon, versus we don't know when we're going to get them stages.
Well, you and I have talked at the sideline about institutional buyers that want to buy 7 and 8 figures worth of metal. That's coming. I really do believe that. We've seen it already. Interest you and I have, and when just in a normal, what I consider to be a market that has been relatively void of the mainstream participation. We've noticed that. We've talked a lot about the outflows out of the ETF that are starting to pick up again. So we are seeing the public wake up, shockingly. But even still, accumulating product is every bit as important a role of our business as is selling, rotating the inventory and constantly buying from other dealers, from other mints, and from the public. Nonstop. In fact, it may even be more of a function of what we do than selling it. And that means that you have stuff that is committed. When we know it's committed, when we know that it's on its way in, we feel free to lock that stuff in and to play. I mean, that's the way the whole industry works. So if we waited until stuff was in stock, if all of the dealers did that and in-house, the business would be very, very, very different. Websites would look very, very, very different. And, over the last 4 years, it's not been uncommon for us to go 3-4 months out in buying sovereign product from Australia or the UK, guaranteeing that we are first in line. Because I say to my traders every day, I'm like, man, I don't like what's coming. And even though it's been a quiet summer, I would say to them, I don't care. I don't care if you have to go onto the line of credit. Get ready, buy it, hedge it. So we're riskless to the fluctuations, but load up on it, because there's going to come a time where there is a realization, a collective realization. I would argue we're beginning to see it, but a collective realization on a mainstream level. And that's when, again, and I'm not talking my book, I've said it forever, the biggest challenge in getting or in accumulating metal will be just getting it. It won't be about the price. Yeah, the price is going to go higher. It'll be about the availability or the lack thereof. And it's very important to underscore one very, tenet of the metals market. There is no bull market like a metals bull market, because the higher the price goes, or the crazier the world gets, or the combination of the two strengthens people's grip and resolve. Yeah, I was right. I knew it. And after all of these years of being ridiculed by friends and family for having these beliefs, and it's finally coming to fruition, do you really think that these people will sell for a profit and go back into dollars when the world has become the most scary? No. And so the secondary market just disappears. And there comes a point where it's every country for themselves, or every man for themselves. And these countries like Australia or South Africa or the UK or even Canada may look at selling product to the United States very differently than they once did, especially when gold and silver were, tertiary investments at best, second, third, or fourth in line, maybe even more after things like stocks, bonds, real estate, and other forms of insurance and whatnot. So things change. And I think we are getting to that point, this collective realization. And it's all going to be square in the face of the G7. And these are the countries that are selling gold to the United States, with the exception of South Africa, and may look at doing just that very differently and be more nationalistic and take care of their own. So, yeah, I think that this is exactly how it happens. I was talking with my dad the other day and said, yeah, I don't think there'll be gold confiscation. They'll just make gold so expensive that no one can afford to buy it. And this is the gold revaluation. And I want to, I've read this before, but I want to read it one last time before we sign off. I read to you what Adam Glupinski said, but I think it's really important to go back to, sometimes the further back we go, the more clear things become. And if you don't understand history, you're doomed to repeat its mistakes. And we talk about going all the way back to, and I may have read this on your show before, but for those who didn't hear it, it's worth repeating one more time as we sign off. And this was a conversation between a man named Thomas Enders and what's his name? Kissinger. And it was a meeting that they had, and this was from the Freedom of Information Act, a meeting they had in 1974. And it goes like this. Mr. Enders says to Kissinger, it is against our interest to have gold in the system because for it to remain in it would result in it being revalued periodically. And although we still have some substantial gold holdings, a larger part of the official gold in the world is concentrated in Western Europe. This gives them the dominant position in world reserves and the dominant means of creating reserves. We've been trying to get away from that into a system which we can control. And Kissinger says, but that's a balance of payments problem. And Mr. Enders says, yes, but it's a question of who has the most leverage internationally. If they have the reserve creating instrument by having the largest amount of gold and the ability to change its price periodically, they have a position relative to ours of considerable power. They're going to revalue the price of gold. I believe that in my soul. And when you see the central banks of the world, who are the most well-informed traders on the planet, not only wickedly accumulated at a level that is increasing year over year, month over month, day over day, hiding how much they're really truly accumulating, and then speaking continuously of gold being held in the revaluation account and the prospect of indeed revaluing it, it will happen. I do believe that. And they will use it to reliquify the system, which will create massive inflation. But it is something that I think that they will do. It is a way of maybe option 3. Instead of defaulting, instead of outright hyperinflating in your face, they'll revalue gold, which will create massive inflation, but will enable them to pay off a large portion of the debt. And I think that's what we are seeing. And I think you go back to 1974 after we were off the gold standard already. So they're calling it a reserve creating instrument. Gold is eternal. They understand this. The big money understands it. And he who has the gold and the commodities makes the rules. And all of the metal is heading eastward. So whether we beat them to the punch and kind of steal their thunder, which wouldn't surprise me, or they do it, I would say and I don't want to go out on a limb, but I will and say, by this time next year, wouldn't surprise me one iota if we saw gold revalued to a level that would shock people. And it's an option that's staring them right in the face, and I think it's hard to ignore. So I'm not one for making predictions like this, but I think it's just too much is happening that is leading this way for it not to be understood that the narrative is being rewritten right in front of us on gold. And now with Russia coming out and saying silver too, and China buying up all the concentrate and the doré all around the world, gold and silver have never been more important. And I hope people are taking these weekly calls we have with a dose of seriousness, because I think this is it. I really do. Getting gold will not be as easy as it once was before this is all said and done, and the price will be much higher as a result of the world understanding that by revaluing it, much of their problems can be washed away. And I think they already noticed that.
Thank you, Andy. And as always, folks, if you don't want to miss a single episode with Andy, make sure you're on our free email list by going to libertyandfinance.com. That's Liberty and Finance, spelled out, all one word, .com. And put in your email address, click submit. Make sure you confirm on the confirming email. You'll get one email in your inbox per day with our latest interviews, with our latest guests. And every interview with Andy will be in there, as well as our weekly specials. You won't miss a thing. Andy, on behalf of all of our viewers and subscribers who tell me every week to thank you for being here, I thank you for being here with us on Liberty and Finance.
Oh, yeah, man. The pleasure is mine. Don't be silly. And I hope you and your family stay safe over the next few nights. It's going to be an interesting one, and look forward to picking up where we left off next week. But for all of you in the path of this hurricane, God bless, stay well, and look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thank you, Andy. Take care. God bless. God bless everyone and all of you and your families. Those of you who are in the Southeast that are mopping up still after Hurricane Helene, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And make sure you do persist in helping each other, and don't take, guff from the would-be those who might interfere with that, but be safe. And those of you who are in the path of Hurricane Milton or any other natural disaster, make sure you're taking prudent preparedness measures now, as well as all of us who are clearly in the crosshairs for the financial well-being of our families. And God bless each and every one of you, and your families will, God willing, be here with you again next week for another weekly market update. Take care.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for October 7th through October 14th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature Australian silver kangaroos at just $2.99 over spot. Next, backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples are just $60 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.